The rain poured down over the grey streets of Manchester the night Oliver Bennett lost everything. At just 8 years old, he stood shivering at the gates of St. Mary's Orphanage, clutching a small, worn suitcase that held all he had left of his parents. A photo of them smiling at the seaside and a broken watch that no longer ticked. Life in the orphanage was cold and strict. The children were many, and the love was scarce. Oliver, quiet and thoughtful, often sat by the window, watching the world go by beyond the iron bars. He dreamed of escaping, of doing something great, something that would make his parents proud. But the world outside was unkind to orphans. At school, he was teased for his hand-me-down clothes and soft voice. He had no one to defend him. Yet he never fought back. Instead, he buried himself in books from the dusty corner of the orphanage library, stories of inventors, explorers, and leaders who changed the world despite impossible odds. By the time he turned 16, Oliver had developed a mind far beyond his years. He was fascinated by how things worked: machines, engines, and gadgets. He fixed broken clocks, rewired lamps, and even built a small, wind-powered fan for his dorm room, using scraps from the orphanage workshop. One day, a science fair was announced at the local college. It was open to all students, but the entry fee was £5, more than Oliver could spare. Determined, he spent 2 weeks secretly polishing shoes for teachers and washing cars for neighbors. On the morning of the fair, he walked 5 miles carrying a box of wires, batteries, and hope. His invention, a tiny device that could generate electricity from footsteps, captured the judge's attention. It was simple, but clever. The local newspaper wrote about the orphan inventor, and for the first time in his life, Oliver saw his name in print. A retired engineer named Mr. Harrington read the article and decided to sponsor his education. University life was hard. Oliver worked part-time at a cafe to pay for food while studying mechanical engineering. He often stayed up until dawn, sketching designs on napkins while cleaning tables. While others partied, he built things. And though loneliness followed him like a shadow, his purpose kept him going. At 22, Oliver graduated top of his class. He immediately began working on his boldest idea yet: a cheap, portable water purification device that could help people in poor countries drink safely. Many laughed at the idea. Investors turned him away. "You're just a boy from nowhere," they said. "Leave world problems to the big companies." But Oliver had nothing to lose, and a promise to keep to the memory of his parents. He worked in a tiny garage, often skipping meals to afford materials. After 3 long years of failures, sparks, and broken prototypes, he finally built a working model. He called it Pure Drop. Pure Drop could turn dirty river water into clean drinking water, using only sunlight and a hand pump. It was small enough to carry in a backpack and cost less than a pair of shoes. When Oliver showcased it at a global tech summit in London, the audience was stunned. Humanitarian groups, charities, and even the United Nations reached out. Within months, Pure Drop units were being shipped to refugee camps, disaster zones, and drought-stricken villages across Africa and South Asia. The boy who had once been mocked for having nothing was now saving millions of lives. At 29, Oliver became the youngest recipient of the British Empire Medal for services to humanity. In his acceptance speech at Buckingham Palace, he stood before the Queen and said, "I grew up believing I had no one. But the truth is, the world becomes your family when you choose to care for it." He used the prize money to open the Bennett Foundation, which gave scholarships to orphans with big dreams, just like him. The old orphanage where he had once cried himself to sleep now bore his name above its gates, the Oliver Bennett Home for Bright Futures. And on quiet evenings, Oliver still carried that broken watch in his pocket. It no longer ticked, but it reminded him of something far greater than time, the power of hope. Because in the end, Oliver Bennett had proven something extraordinary. Even an orphan can change the world.